Good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. Thanks for saying good morning. This is my brother. He'll do whatever I tell him to do, so that's good. Um, my name is George Wise, and I'm very proud to serve as chair of the board of directors of Scottsdale Community Bank. And on behalf of our board and our really outstanding staff, I want to welcome you to a session of what we call the Vault, which is a way to get up close and personal with some amazing leaders here in our community, to really get to know them, how they think, and how can their great success and their experiences, both good and bad, help us in what we do. So today you're in for a real treat. We were having a conversation with an amazing guy. You'll hear me say that word amazing quite a bit. Matt Moody, who's someone who earns the respect of everyone he comes in contact with. And we are here in this unique place, the showroom of PXG, an incredible local company, started locally here, and is now a worldwide brand where people buy the equipment and the clothing that they produce from around the world. It's pretty an amazing story. And if you're ever in a trivia contest and somebody says, what does PXG stand for? You now know it's, you can't see it too well, but Parsons Extreme Golf. And PXG, for those who may not know, was started by Bob Parsons. Bob was the one who started GoDaddy, a trade name and IT supplier, obviously service supplier. He now has an entire complex surrounding you, not just here at PXG, but a marketing firm, a land investment firm. He has a furniture store, and he owns the largest Harley Davidson dealership in the world, which is right over here as well, and owns Scottsdale National Golf Club. He's really an Arizona treasure and has done so much for our community, and he just has a passion for both business and philanthropy, and we really appreciate him. So with that, I want to introduce one of the hardest working guys in retail business, and that is the general manager of PXG's store right here and his operation here, Baylor Gibbs. Baylor?
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate all of you taking the time to come in this morning. George couldn't have done a better job of introducing PXG and kind of who we are as a brand. To give you a little micro focus on how our brand started, our CEO, Bob Parsons, is obsessed with the game of golf. And he took two engineers, Brad Schweiger and Mike Nicolette, and gave them a phone call. They were previously working at Ping, and said, what if I gave you unlimited money, no time constraint, no year-over-year turn for better equipment? Your sole goal was to build the best golf club in the world. Could you do it? And I said, well, yeah, of course. We work on a 3-month calendar where we have to turn product over year over year to get better. There's only so much increasement we can do from generation to generation. Well, the whole idea of PXG was kind of how do we conquer that? So we started in 2014. Our first golf club wasn't sold on grass until 2016. So there's a 2-year period between developing no generation to generation 1. We're now on generation 8. We pride ourselves on having the most adjustable golf club in the industry. So you take our club head, there's adjustable weight that we move all around for the consumer. This place is our headquarters. We fit people on a daily basis. If any of you are golfers, I would love to have you in for a fitting so you can experience what it's like, because it's, 1, a ton of fun, and 2, it helps the golf game a lot, because every golf club that you have in your hands is meant for you. So that's what we're here to do, make golf easy, fun, and you work one-on-one with the fitter during your fitting process, and it's an awesome relationship to have for your golf equipment. It's like the start of the relationship is when you come in here and your golf game adapts. You get the golf bug, you start playing more, your swing changes, our equipment is able to change with you. So honored to have you guys all in this morning. Again, my name is Baylor. I'll be around after we are done talking here. We have some fun contests in the first and second bay. We'd love to get you guys to have your hands on the equipment just so you can kind of see and understand the differences, what makes PXG PXG. So, and again, if any of you want to come in for a fitting, come find me. I'll take care of you, make sure we get you a free fitting and have a ton of fun. So.
So PXG is, and Bob Parsons is about personal relationships, and that's what our bank is about as well. By the way, there's a sale back there of clothing, so my wife says I need to bring some things home before the end of the morning. We have several new folks here today, and so I just want to quickly mention some things about our bank, something we're very proud of that actually many of you who work with us at the bank in various places, our clients, our shareholders, can be very proud of. Simply put, Scottsdale Community Bank is the best local bank in the best city in America. That's how we feel. We live and breathe that tagline. And we are the most unique bank in Arizona. Unique in so many ways. Like the Phoenix Open, we are locally born and raised. We're locally owned. We're locally managed. We are founded by over 215 founders from across the community who wanted to do something that is a win-win for both quality banking and the community. It's a bank that's become known as the go-to bank for small businesses and nonprofits. If you're on any boards of nonprofits, please come and talk to us because it's one of our specialties. It's a bank where every client gets the cell phone number of the staff, including the president and chair, to call 24/7, 365. That's like unheard of. It's the anti-fee bank where we don't charge fees for ACHs, wire transfers, even the printing of your checks, notary publics. We don't charge fees for those operating accounts because relationships are more important. And it's a bank that has cutting-edge technology that does things better and faster, most important in business, than any of the big banks can do, including approving loans within 48 hours, which again is just unheard of. So it's a bank that takes in money locally and then gives it out to businesses in our community. The money actually stays locally. So we're proud to be really a part of the fabric of Scottsdale. So thank you for your support. And just keep referring more people to us, because once we tell our story, we don't understand why everybody isn't banking with us, because we save them money. So it's truly appreciated. The People's Open, the greatest show on grass, a Super Bowl every day for a week. Well, this amazing WM Phoenix Open has come a long way since 1932. It's certainly a superbly run golf tournament with amazing talent. But it's more than just that. It's an experience that people travel from around the world to see and to be here. And it's amazing what it does for our community in so many ways. Now, there's also, as someone who has observed out there many times over the years, there's a lot of people who show up there who don't even know there's a golf game going on. We've seen many of those. What the heck are those white things in some grass over there? Can I go lie down in the grass? So it's an amazing, like you said, it's an amazing experience. And what it does for the community besides economic development, they have raised over $226 million for charities over the years. And last year, under Matt's leadership, it raised the highest ever in 1 year, $18 million. Pretty amazing, huh? So that can only happen when you have dedicated hard work and the men and women of the Thunderbirds charities, including a good friend of ours, Jessica Pacheco, who serves on their board, who helped put this all together. We really appreciate, so we appreciate her. Want to also thank Jason Rose, who helped put this together, owns Rose Allen Public Relations, if you ever need somebody for that. And also, I just want to thank our staff who's here, especially Julie Stoney, who's helped put all this together. She's our business development director at the bank. So please, if you see her, thank her for that. And she's done a lot all the time. And then one other person I need to point out. Here in our midst, we have a long drive golf champion, Alan McDougall, who happens to be our executive vice president of commercial lending at Scottsdale Community Bank. He has been the ESPN Tour of Champions on long drives. What's the longest drive ever, Alan? 463 of a drive. Is that with bounces or without bounces? Okay. Unbelievable. He's been on tremendous, you've probably seen him on ESPN. He's just phenomenal. Somebody to know. Maybe we need to highlight over at the Phoenix Open, actually. So we're proud to have him. And in fact, alongside Alan, our president, Neil LaCorn, who many of you know, actually came over from Great Britain, so he has that accent, but came over as a teenager because he got a golf scholarship in Florida, and he's been here ever since. So pretty amazing people we have here, and they know it pretty well. Well, the Thunderbird organization runs the WM Phoenix Open, and Matt Moody is a truly amazing person who heads that large organization, very productive organization, has a title of Big Chief. He was the operating chair of the tournament itself last year. The amount of work is horrendous. It's complex, it's full of challenges, obstacles, as well as tremendous responsibilities and tremendous rewards for our community. Well, Matt showed us over this past year and continues to do so what the term exceeding expectations really means, because he does it all the time. Does it while balancing precious time with his family, and also as an incredible CEO of Parkway, a very well-respected national real estate investment firm has operations here in Phoenix. So with that, please welcome Matt Moody to the vault. So Matt, tell us a little bit about yourself, about you, where you grew up, what brought you to Arizona, and tell us about you playing golf for Mississippi State, for the college team.
Yeah, well, thank you for that kind introduction, George, and far more than I deserve. It's great to be with you all this morning, and love talking about the Phoenix Open and maybe a little bit about real estate too. Yeah, so I grew up in the Southeast Florida when I was a little guy, and then we moved to Mississippi through high school, ended up playing golf at Mississippi State, not in the SEC, but not as prestigious of a golf tournament as University of Florida. So your president has me beat on prestige, but it was a great experience. You know, I think golf is a tricky sport to play in college because you're always in season. You have a season in the fall and a season in the spring. And so while I'm sure every college golfer, you know, goes to college with the ambition that they're going to play pro golf one day, that wasn't the case for me. In fact, I kind of joke that my junior year, because we were playing in the SEC, if you follow golf, Brant Snedeker was at Vandy, who won on tour a bunch of times. Camilo Villegas was at Florida. J.B. Holmes was at Kentucky. And I was playing with these guys, and I was kind of like, you know what? They're hitting shots I wasn't even thinking about hitting. I need to focus on my grades. So I ended up, you know, I think that was a blessing, even though it was the death of a dream at a time. I redshirted for a year, so I stayed and played golf my last year and was able to do an MBA that year, which allowed my wife to finish college. She was a year behind me, and then we got married actually right after that. And I started with Parkway when it was a public real estate investment trust. The founder of the firm was a gentleman named Leland Speed, who had built up a huge portfolio through the S&L crash in the 80s. Brilliant guy, Harvard educated, but had grown up in Jackson, Mississippi. And he ultimately took two companies public, East Group Properties, which was all of his industrial assets. And if you're in real estate, East Group is still publicly traded industrial REIT that's based in Jackson, but has a huge footprint here in Phoenix and all over the Sun Belt. And then Parkway was the office REIT. And so started with them in their Jackson headquarters. You'd spend time kind of rotating through the different departments, investments and accounting and property management and asset management, understanding sort of the basics of a public REIT. And then when you saw an opportunity in a market that you wanted to maybe move to, you could apply. And I'd grown up traveling out west with my granddad. Most every summer we would come to New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado, and play golf and trout fish. And you know, while people talk about the heat in Arizona, I'll take the heat in Arizona all day over 98 with 98% humidity in the southeast. And so lo and behold, there was an opportunity in Phoenix, January of '06, and we moved out Phoenix Open weekend 20 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Pretty good. Well, in fact, I understand that the day after you and your wife moved to Phoenix, you attended your first ever Phoenix Open. What was that like, and what impressions did it leave with you?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy how life works out. I mean, such a full circle moment. So yeah, we drove out and arrived in Phoenix on Friday night, or Scottsdale on a Friday night. Our luggage hadn't arrived yet. We had a hotel room in Old Town, and then we were going to move into an apartment in McDowell Mountain Ranch, and so it's Saturday of Phoenix Open week, and I'd grown up in watching the golf tournament, and we had no luggage, nothing to do. So I was like, we should go out and check out the Phoenix Open. And I remember we were walking up to the front entrance, and I mean, we didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. Like, we had no money. We're just starting out in life, and somebody comes up and they're like, "Hey, here's 2 general admission tickets. Would you guys like these?" And we're just like, we won the lottery, And so we walked in, and it was just a classic Phoenix Scottsdale day. It was 70 degrees and sunny, and one of the things that I think is understated about the TPC Scottsdale is the backdrop of the McDowell Mountains, and that's one of the most incredible things about that course, and I really think one of the reasons it has such a huge TV audience. And so I just have cemented in my mind, walking through those gates, the McDowells in the background, and that golf course, and couldn't have scripted a better first day.
Pretty cool. So you come the first day, you get impressed, and then just 10 years later, you join the Thunderbirds.
Right.
Pretty amazing, and you've been an active part of its leadership since then. So, including as tournament chair this past year. So that was a time of very logistical and human challenges during the 2024 tournament, right before you took over, because that's when, some may remember, we had this huge rainstorm, and we had just tons of mud everywhere. And as most people know, you go out there, and a lot of people like to stay on the grass and sit on the grass. Well, now they couldn't.
That's right.
So you had this literally 100,000 people a day trying to get in and not being able to use your prime seating, which are the wonderful grass that's kept up so well. And some decided to spend those times pushing into tents to drink.
Yeah.
And if you're going to be in the rain, I guess you might as well drink. But how did you address kind of building back confidence in the Open? Because there were some problems that developed. And now you're the new golf tournament chair.
Yeah, that was definitely a really challenging Saturday in particular for us at the Open, and you did an amazing job really describing the root issue, which was, we got 3 inches of rain in a week, which is, as you all know, is plus or minus half or a third of our annual precipitation, and it was the first stadium-built golf course with all these mounds. That's the reason we can host the huge crowds, and we had never really had a time when we had that much rain in that short of amount of time, and you nailed the logistical issues, is that all of a sudden we had overcrowding on the cart paths, which backed up our entrances, and then you get people having cocktails crammed in tight quarters, and things kind of tend to spiral. And so it was a tough Saturday for us, but I think that, when we look back, we already say this, that it probably was one of the best things that happened at the golf tournament. And I think that's for a couple reasons. One is we're just so fortunate that at a time when you've seen over the last several years some golf tournaments go away, you see some golf tournaments struggling to even have enough attendance to break even. We have the opposite problem, which is we've got more demand than we can accommodate. And so I think that gave us the opportunity to take a step back and say, okay, we've grown to the point we can't accommodate everybody who wants to come to the golf tournament. So we've got to really shift our focus, and we made our mantra for the 2025 event, better, not bigger. And it was, how do we focus on the fan experience, the player experience, to be sure that as we now have this international audience and business leaders from all over the country that are traveling to attend this tournament, make sure that our focus is on improving that experience and sort of a quality over quantity, better not bigger approach. And so it was challenging. I mean, kind of one quick anecdote. The tournament concluded Sunday, and then the way it works is you're the vice chair, the assistant chair the year before, and then as soon as the last putt drops, it's your tournament to plan for the next 12 months. And I've joked with my wife, like I said yes to doing it because your thought is like, well, I'll just do what the last guy did, and it'll be the best tournament we've ever had because it grows. And lo and behold, the year I said yes, we had to kind of overhaul the whole thing. But it really started the 24 hours after the tournament. The tour invited myself and Chance Cosby, our executive director, to Riviera to meet with the Players Advisory Council. And so, we jump on a plane, fly over to LA, go to Riv, and we sit down in this room with 20 players, and it's, the most kind of influential players on the tour. I remember Tiger was on the Zoom, and you got Justin Thomas and a lot of names that you guys would know. And we really just made our goal to give them an opportunity to talk to us and make sure we heard their concerns and that we were prepared to adjust moving forward. And I think we went in there not knowing fully what to expect, and it actually gave us a lot of confidence because the players had lived through the weather that we had lived through. And overwhelmingly, their response was, look, it was a brutal weather week. Certainly use it as an opportunity to make tweaks, but also don't overcorrect because we love being in that environment. It's one of the most unique weeks on the PGA Tour. And so that was kind of how we arrived at the better, not bigger. Let's make sure we make the right changes, but let's don't overcorrect because we've got something here that everybody else is trying to figure out a way to replicate.
We're very well put. I think that's a great way to look at it. So you talked about the preparations, which start literally the day after the tournament ends. What are some of the behind-the-scenes preparations? I mean, people go out there, they see the tents, they see people walking. There's obviously an abundance of food issues. Or my wife's main concern every time are the porta potties.
Yeah.
And so how are those going to be done? You've got security measures. Again, you're putting on literally a Super Bowl every day. What are some of those behind the scenes that keep you up a little bit at night, preparing for that and hoping things work out well that maybe people wouldn't see? Yeah,
I think it really does take an absolute army, and there's so many important components to that. Scottsdale Police and Fire obviously is one of the first that I've got to name. I mean, we just have such an incredible rapport with them. We meet generally throughout the entire year, recapping the prior tournament and then planning for the following year. And they were really incredible, I think, last year. I think the same way the Thunderbirds took the 24 Open personally, I think Scottsdale Fire and Scottsdale PD did as well. And so, we just have a great relationship with them and use that year to make sure that last year we hit the nail on the head with the right changes, which I could speak to. But, I honestly, even having run the tournament, I'm still amazed at M Culinary, our partner who provides all the food, logistically how they are able to pull it off.
It's amazing.
You go out there and all throughout these venues, below the stands, behind the stands, there's kitchens, and they're able to prepare unbelievable food for, hundreds of thousands of people over the course of the week. And that's one of the things that blows me away the most. And then obviously we're fortunate. We worry a lot about the Porta Johns and keeping those things clean, and we have a title sponsor who's pretty good at that, so that helps.
That's true.
And but it's pretty crazy. I mean, the build really starts in September, so we've got a good 4.5 months that the project is under construction. There's 1 million square feet of temporary venues on course. And then the day after the tournament, we start taking it all down, and it's usually, March, April before the course is fully cleared. So, I mean, you're talking about a good 8 to 9 months that the course is under construction, which is crazy.
So you put it up, and then you take it down. There was a rumor floating around this year that some of the stands may stay up. Is that possible?
Well, we get that question a lot.
I don't know if that's good or bad.
Yeah, we get that question a lot, and the challenge is we're in Bureau of Land Management and a reclamation zone. I mean, that's essentially that green belt that runs all throughout town. And so we can't have permanent structures. So it would be a lot easier if we could, especially 16. I mean, we made a huge investment in 16. When you go out to the tournament, you'll see it's an entirely new structure. If you have been to Bay Club or Cove or 18, those venues have much wider column spacing and just more of an open feel. And so we've redone 16 now to match that same structure. There's actually one part right by the green where it's 4 levels now, which is crazy. But yeah, the undertaking, we've got an incredible partner in production who has built really an amazing business doing all these temporary structures. And Danny Ellis, who runs that firm, if he were here, he'd tell you that, you know, they built a business basically around the country on the backs of what they did at the Phoenix Open.
I can't imagine the logistics in doing that. So I was, and you talk about 16, for those who may not know, tell me if my history is a little bit wrong, but I remember years ago, obviously, when it was just, there weren't stands, right? People went out to the course, and 16 is a par 3, so everybody's kind of up close and cozy, and there used to be ASU students who would come there and sit near the tee. And they had a little bit of beer, but not overdone. And they would learn about the players. They learn about where they went to college, you know, with their parents, their families. And in a nice way, actually, like someone would come up from Mississippi State and they would sing whatever song that is for that alma mater. And so they got to know the players a little bit. And again, not in a bad way, but in a nice way. And this started this kind of very casual hole that the players would look forward to, because it wasn't harassment, though they would boo if it was a bad shot. And now it's become the most legendary hole in golf that there is. So I was there, actually I was on 18, not on 16, but when it happened, when Tiger Woods got his hole-in-one on 16, which some people call the coolest shot in golf history, which really helped put him on the map, number one. And I don't think he ever came and played after that. Isn't there a little story about that?
Yeah.
So he gets his hole-in-one. He now becomes internationally famous. And then he got, I think it was Saudi Arabia or something, offered him a tournament on the same day as the next Phoenix Open. And he went off to
with like a $3
make his living.
$3 million appearance fee. Yeah.
So amazing, amazing time though. And so 16 and now become this huge thing. And it needs to, you know, you guys have to control it because, but it is the place, just amazing. So your position with the Thunderbirds, like I said, they call you the Big Chief. So what does that mean? Tell us about Thunderbird Charities, their work in the community a little bit, and how do they run the actual golf tournament?
Yeah, so a little history, obviously, on the Thunderbirds, and many of you may probably know this story, but started in 1937 actually as an offshoot of the Phoenix Chamber to promote the Valley of the Sun through sports. And so a gentleman named Bob Goldwater was kind of the key founding member, and he had been tasked by the Phoenix Chamber, okay, we want to figure out how to grow Phoenix through sports tourism. And so Bob got 4 of his friends, and then they each got 10 of their friends, and that created the original 55 active Phoenix Thunderbirds. And to Bob's credit, in 1937, when the Thunderbirds were founded, he recognized there's this little golf tournament, the Phoenix Open, and that maybe we could make this into something. And so Bob had really incredible connectivity, you know, in that era with all of the kind of biggest names in the sport, whether it was Arnold Palmer or Ben Hogan over the years. When you look at the past champions, he was also really close friends with Bob Hope. And so he was able to create this kind of Hollywood/golf draw to the tournament. And that really obviously became the biggest thing that we do. If you look back over the history, there were tennis tournaments at times and different things like that. And we still do a lot of things in sports, but nothing as big as the Phoenix Open. Well, as the Phoenix Open grew, then obviously it became a question of, okay, now we're generating a pretty tremendous amount of profit. What do we do with this? We're a nonprofit organization. And so the organization began to really focus on charitable donations back to Phoenix-based charities. And so as Big Chief, I'm essentially the president of the organization, so I deal with kind of the administrative things that might be going on within the organization. I chair our board, which, as you mentioned, Jessica and a lot of other folks that you guys would know are on. But probably the most meaningful thing is that I get to chair the Thunderbird Charities Board, which Jessica's also a part of. And it's a cool construct because I spent all of last year, kind of leading the team in the 2025 Phoenix Open, and then to be able to now spend the next year stewarding those monies back into the community and getting to go to all of these charities that benefit from it is incredible. And, it's such an amazing story, and it's such a Phoenix Scottsdale story to me that we have this event that our community has made what it is, and the way that we rally in this community around causes and have this rising tide that lifts all ships effect. There's no better example than the Phoenix Open, but I think a lot of people don't know that, all that money that they spend at the golf tournament is then turning around going back into local charities. And so, I like to say it because it's true. It's a virtuous cycle where the community supports the Open, and then the Open turns around and supports the community. And it's just an amazing construct, and it is incredibly humbling to review all of the charity applications to get to go to these charities. And when you get to see, kids that wouldn't have enough food on their table or families that wouldn't have a roof over their head, that really, makes it all the more meaningful and makes any extra work all the more worth it.
Well, that's, and the people that know you know that's in your heart, and that's, despite your interest in golf, that's why you got involved,
Yeah.
to do something in the community, and it is amazing what it does. There is nothing like it anywhere in the world, and we need to appreciate that value. So you do a lot of work with Thunderbird Charities, obviously the golf stuff. Your day job, you're
Yeah.
CEO of Parkway, a national firm. You work very hard, you contribute to our economic growth here in the Valley. So what do you see as the outlook for our economic growth here, specifically when it comes to land investment here in Phoenix? We're growing, there's the water issues we hear all about all the time. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm so bullish on the Valley long term. We just have such an incredible lifestyle here, and I see it. We're generally Sunbelt focused investors. So Arizona, Texas, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, Tennessee has been our footprint. And, I think if you look at all of those markets, they generally benefit from, high quality of life, low cost of living, quality business regulations, lower tax environment. And when you kind of check through those boxes, I know I'm biased, but I think Phoenix stands alone in terms of what we offer, even compared to cities that we all hear a lot about, like in Austin or Miami's. The Florida markets have been discussed a lot of late post-COVID. And so, I think we're just so fortunate, and I probably appreciate this more having grown up and spent a lot of time in Mississippi, where we just have this incredible rising tide lifts all ships effect. I hosted some investors from New York last week here, and they were saying, is population growth still great? And I said, yeah, look, I've been here for 20 years, and generally speaking, we add 80 to 100,000 new residents every year, and that's unbelievable. And so I think as long as we can continue to maintain the right pro-development standards in the right areas that allow us to have an affordability and to continue to build appropriately for people so that we don't see the cost of living here spike too dramatically, then people are going to continue to move here because the quality of life is fantastic.
Yeah, it seems like even when the nation is having a little bit of a downturn, we continue to grow. Maybe not as much, but we continue to grow. So pretty easy. So you've held key leadership positions both in business and nonprofits. What stands out that you think about your leadership style? How do you motivate people to produce excellence?
Well, I think I do feel like at the core of who I hope to be as a person is, really treating people with respect and treating them the way that they would want to be treated. And I find that in the way that I would want to be treated. And I'm amazed at how much, I have 3 kids, 16, 14, and 11. And I tell my kids all the time, if you show up, you treat people with respect, your handshake and your word is your bond, and you do what you say you're going to do, and you work as hard as you possibly can, that you're ahead of the majority of the population. That sounds like a simple formula, but now that I'm hiring a lot of people, I realize like it is the case. And so, I think if you can kind of couple those fundamentals of the way you treat people with hard work, and then trying to, I think, do things with the mindset of it's not just for my personal gain, but I'm trying to do things that better my employees' lives, that better our company, that better the community through the Thunderbirds. People can tell, I think, generally quickly if you're self-centered in all of your motivations or if you're others-oriented in your motivations. And not to say that I certainly don't have moments when I'm sure my wife would attest that I'm somewhat self-centered, but I hope that, the majority of the time I am taking an others-oriented approach. And I think that provides so much more meaning, in the hard work and the why, as I kind of work my way through a busy day, whether it's nonprofit or for-profit.
You can see why, as I said at the beginning, how he earns the respect of everybody around him wherever he goes, and it's pretty great qualities and a great message for all of us. So we're gonna have some Q&A here in a second, but I just want to touch back on the tournament for a second. So everybody wants to know what is new this year, Anything new in the setup of the bird's nest? Is there anything new at 16? Well, you mentioned a larger one. Do people still get there in the morning when the gates are ready to open and sprint to the 16th hole, whoever can get there first, running about 200 yards or actually more than that to get a seat in the stands? Anything new along those lines?
Yeah, so I touched on 16. That'll be the biggie that will really stand out, and it really looks fantastic. We have also another new one is we've created some family areas and nursing mother areas, and we're trying to really focus on making sure there's sort of family options at the Open. But I will say, if you didn't get out to the tournament last year, you'll see kind of the continued refinement of some of the big changes we made last year. So we created a new entrance off the Greenway Hayden Loop, which is the third entrance into the golf course now. If you haven't used it, I encourage you to. It's just so easy. You can drop an Uber right there, and you walk right in on the 18th tee, which is so easy because then all the hospitality suites, which is probably where most of this room is going, are much more accessible to you that way. The other thing that we've kind of continued to refine is last year we built 1,100 feet of player bridges. Mm-hmm. So we found that part of the reason we were having traffic flow issues across the course is, as you all know, if you've been, like when a player's coming through and needs to cross a cart path, the gallery ropes go up, you have to hold people back. Might take them a couple minutes to get through, and then you have this rush of people. And so we built these player bridges up and over all these congested areas, and the players loved it. And it was the fans loved it as well because they didn't have to stop. So we're continuing to refine that. And then I think the other thing that is continuing to grow this year that I'm really proud of is we created a venue a couple years ago called Desert Oasis, and then Taylor Morrison Fairway House. So Taylor Morrison Fairway House sits along 12, the par 3, and then Desert Oasis sits between 5, 6, and 7. And those are general admission fan areas. And so, we recognize that everybody wants to get to 16, but a lot of people have to line up and they'll continue to. I mean, 6 a.m., on Saturday morning, you go out there and there's several thousand people, some of which have stayed up all night to get in line to get on 16. And so our perspective was everybody wants to see 16, not everybody can see 16. So how do we create other amenity areas for those general admission fans throughout the course? And so I'm really proud of what we have out at Desert Oasis also.
Very cool stuff. What's the best way for people to buy tickets if they want to go?
Yeah, WMPhoenixOpen.com is the easiest path. We've got still some a decent amount of daily hospitality for purchase, so I'd encourage you to look at that. That's the other thing we've tried to do. Our wait list for the hospitality suites across the course is several hundred companies long, which is pretty crazy. That we just can't accommodate all that demand. So what we've been trying to do is create more daily hospitality options. So even on 16 now, there's a new venue called the Penn High Club, which sits right along the green and has all the amenities of 16, maybe even more than some areas of 16. But you can purchase those on a daily basis, which is I think really cool offering. And then you've got Greenskeeper and a lot of the others that you're familiar with. But it is funny. People come back from the holidays and all of a sudden, whatever's remaining goes quickly. So if you're thinking about going, don't wait too long.
It's just amazing to me that anybody can hit a golf ball with hundreds of thousands of people right in your face, and somehow you get it to where it's supposed to go. We have the long drive champion, I'm the short drive champion, so doesn't work. So just a point of personal privilege. So I'm a sports memorabilia collector, or as my wife says, I'm a hoarder. And so I have lots of stuff, and I've been fortunate to be involved in a lot of sports things here in the Valley. And so I brought in one of the things which my wife was happy to get anything out of the house. But this is from 1996 is when we hosted our first Super Bowl, and it was the same weekend as the Phoenix Open, and they put together this actual sculpture. Which there's only a few of, actually. It talks about the Super Bowl, talks about the Phoenix Open, and of course has a football player and a golf player there. So back then, everybody's proud of their parents, and I'm proud of my parents as well. And I don't get a chance to always talk about them, but my dad was president, CEO, and chairman of the board of Motorola, which at that time was the largest employer in the state of Arizona. Changed a lot since then. And they were the sponsor of the Phoenix Open for several years, and also did some things at the Super Bowl. So they made this up to commemorate our first Super Bowl, as well as the Phoenix Open and what that brought together here in the Valley as far as economic growth. And my brother, David, who happens to be here today, was sports marketing director for Motorola at the time. So thanks for all the work you've done. So anyway, just a piece. I never get a chance to show this to anybody, but this seemed like the right move. So it was very good.
Yeah.
So really, very cool. So we want to open it up to questions. Anything at all? Go ahead. Yes. And I'll repeat the question for you unless somebody wants to.
So, Bob mentioned it, but the growth in Arizona, and the big question obviously always is the water problem or issues and what we're going to do about it. I know there's a big committee somewhere that's trying to figure out how the water from the Colorado River and how we get it here. What's your thoughts on how that's going to work itself out, and especially long term if we keep growing it?
Yeah.
So let me repeat the question in case you didn't hear it. How is a water problem that people say we have a problem here? How does that affect us and the growth? And do we have a problem actually?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, and there's people in the room, Jason being one, more equipped to answer this question than me, but I think, look, I think there is a perception. It's funny when we talk to our investors, like the guys I mentioned from New York last week, they have this perception because, it'll pop up in the New York Times or whatever, like, oh, Phoenix is running out of water. It's a city that just should have never been built. And the thing that I always say to them is like, we've always lived in a desert here. And so I think we have been incredible stewards of our water resources since the founding of this area, even by the Hohokam Indians. And so I think that, that mindset here has always been about water. And if you go to other markets, I mean, even a couple years ago in Atlanta, there was a significant water issue. So I'm grateful that there's people a lot smarter than me that have been working on this issue since our metropolitan area was founded. But look, I think it is whether it's how significant the reality is depending on how this legislation goes over the next few years, or even just the perception of it, that's an issue for us that we have to deal with. And so we talk about it a lot, not only in my day job, but we've spent a lot of time as a Thunderbird organization making sure that we're supporting the game of golf. And so there's a relatively new organization in town called the Arizona Golf Alliance. And one of the things that they've been doing is working to make sure that people understand the benefit that golf provides to our local community. The tourism is, in the billions of dollars. The jobs are, astronomical related to the industry, and yet there's a perception that we shouldn't have golf courses. Well, when you look at water reclamation and how golf courses use their water, again, just incredible stewards of the organization, of the resource, much more so than you see even in other areas. And so I do feel like it's a problem that we're going to be able to work our way through and plan around and continue to solve for as we grow. But it's not to be taken lightly, and I think the perception of it in the meantime is as important as the reality, because we've got to be able to manage the perception of people that are looking to continue to invest.
Great. Questions? David?
So with the challenge for many, thanks, I have a pretty booming voice, but with the challenge of getting sponsors each year, I know the environment now is tougher and tougher. I work with a lot of nonprofits and just trying to get partners to come on board. You've got a great brand out there. You probably have more sponsors wanting to come in. You already mentioned the ones that are on the waiting list for suites. What is it like right now? I mean, we know Western Waste Management is there strong for you and will continue to be, hopefully. But what's it like now with either turnover of sponsors? Is it a challenging environment, or are you pretty fortunate?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think we've had such an incredible run the last especially 10 to 15 years of the tournament, since WM became title sponsor in 2011. We were curious to see, we had a pretty significant price increase on 16 this year for our hospitality suites, and we knew we have, because of the wait list, incredible demand, and Jason Eisenberg, our tournament chairman this year, made the decision to push that a bit, and amazingly, our renewal rate of corporate sponsorships across all of our boxes, we have about 700 hospitality suites, was 99% this year. So we have seen, even with significant price increases, no checkup in demand for this thing. And I think it's funny, people ask a lot, like, how did the Phoenix Open become this corporate event? And I will tell you, I mean, in our industry, in the real estate industry, I see more people here on a Thursday than, I would say the only event that comes close to it, even as I travel around the country, is like the Urban Land Institute National Conference. Mm-hmm. It is just, everybody's there, especially Thursday, Friday. And look, I think you nailed it earlier. I mean, I think Tiger Woods' hole-in-one is the thing that I point to when I say what really sort of began to catapult it to the next level. But even if you look at our numbers post-COVID, we've seen astronomical growth in demand. And so we're really fortunate. I mean, Phoenix and Scottsdale in February is obviously a huge deal. I think it's a great time on the calendar. Football season's ending. People are starting to think about golf. They're tired of being in Chicago, New York, wherever over the winter. And so it's like, hey, if I can write off a business trip to Scottsdale, then I'll do that. Yeah, the demand is just unchecked. And we've had some really interesting conversations the last couple of years, because if you followed it, the tour now has a significant investment from private equity. Strategic Sports Group and Fenway is the lead investor. You've got Arthur Blank, Stephen Cohen, some others in that. And we feel really fortunate because we didn't know kind of how the changes in the tour may play out. But we've had a lot of meetings, and we've hosted them a number of times, where they're coming here to say, why does this one work so much better than all of the other events? And so we're just fortunate, and it's a Phoenix Scottsdale story, and our community is what makes it what it is.
We're fortunate to be beneficiaries of it. It's pretty amazing. The electricity that's here, as well as the economic development is, yeah, it's beyond belief. It's really incredible. Other questions? Who else? Yes.
Yeah, my voice probably doesn't go as much as the men's here. I'm native from the Southeast, so hearing the little bit of Southern twang's nice and homey. I'm curious, because you worked in the nonprofit sector with the WMO, just seeing how that success and what have you guys done on that side that's been different that you've now implemented into the profit business that you have with real estate?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, I think one of the things that I've taken away from the Phoenix Open experience is the power of having a deeper cause. You know, I think, like, if you look at the Thunderbird organization, you've got generally business leaders in the community who have really full schedules. They don't need more things to do. They don't need more friends. But I think the reason that they choose to give their time is because they know what benefits that extra work at the end of the day. They see the benefit to the community. And that's certainly why I did it. I mean, I would say the tournament chairman job, probably 20 hours a week for, a year on top of day job and family and all that kind of stuff. But every time I was having a long day, it was like, okay, but I think about the kids that I see at Special Olympics, or the charities that we get to go to put meals on the table. And so it provides that deeper meaning that I think we're all looking for in life. And so it has made me really reflect on, when I think about our organization and kind of mission, vision, values, how do we create, every organization does community service days and stuff like that, but how do you provide more meaning in why we do what we do? And we're buying real estate, but how do we're buying office buildings, improve people's work days so that they're more efficient, so that they have more joy in what they're doing, so that their business performs better, and that cycle kind of feeds itself. And so I do think it's made me reflect a lot more on how to just, I think you said it well, like incorporate that kind of nonprofit meaning mindset into our for-profit business.
Very cool. Anybody else? Yes. Mark. Somebody who knows land. Investment,
Mark
actually.
should have answered the water question. You probably thought I was fumbling up here.
No, you did great. Thanks.
Mark
Thanks for
was
sharing your
director
story.
of the State Land Department in Arizona for quite a while.
It's a great story. Thanks for sharing. This gentleman asked about a water problem. I'd like to follow up and ask about another water problem. These kids that sprint out to the 16th at 6 in the morning, they do have a few beers over the course of the day, and this is something that's puzzled me forever. The restrooms are outside of the stadium. How do they do that?
It is. We marvel at that too. I mean, you basically, I think what they do is they have a buddy that goes with them so they can rotate out and use the restroom, buy more beer, and come back. Because if you're there by yourself and you leave, that seat is gone. So it is amazing. And I'll tell you, some of the people that we get to meet who, I was talking to a couple last year that flew here from Australia because it was on their bucket list. You said that at the beginning, but it really is true. Like, I get to talk to these people. Not only do we see all the celebrities and the CEOs that are looking to bring their businesses here, but I think maybe even more meaningful to me are like people that flew here from Australia to wait in line to have a general admission ticket to sit on 16. That's incredible. So I'm amazed at the sacrifices that people make.
It's a great testament. So this PXG opens up at 10 o'clock, so the people have been coming in. I just want to thank all. First of all, we're going to be around. If you have any questions for Matt or me or any of our staff is here, please eat more, drink more. Please have it, so it's here for you. But we want to thank all of you for taking your precious time to come visit us, and especially to Matt. As you can tell, he's a leader for a reason. He's a leader because people heard what his principles are, what his ethics are, and it's shown in your results that you have a lot to be proud of.
thank you
So
very much.
thank you, Matt, for being with us today.
Yeah.
No problem.